welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt, and this is the Dodge Durango Hellcat. And it's probably the most insane family SUV that money can buy. Except there's one other one from America. Last year at this time we spent time in the Cadillac Escalade V, and that is very much like this in its personality. So today we're going to see which one is best, covering the best and the rest, starting with the rest. First thing is, this thing's just kind of old. The Durango originally came to us in 2011, which makes it almost as old as the Toyota 4Runner, which is funny. And you can really kind of tell on the interior. If you option the rear entertainment package, you'll get like a Blu-ray player in the center. I couldn't tell you the last time that like Blu-ray was a thing. Your wireless charging tray in the middle here seems strange and like it was added very much as an afterthought. And then your 12-volt charger, which used to be right above where your wireless charger is now, has been moved over next to your glove box. Is it really bad? I mean, the cluster displays are actually really laggy, and there's evidence of kind of era gone by stuff, but really we're talking about this thing in comparison to the Escalade V, and ultimately the Escalade is just thoroughly more modern pretty much everywhere. And I know we just touched on this in the last point, and objectively it's not bad or a problem at all, but relatively speaking, it is a older, less robust tech stack than you're going to get in the Escalade V. For example, you don't get a completely digital instrument cluster. You do get a 10-inch center screen, and it is running Uconnect 5, which is pretty good, but it's a little bit laggy. And speaking of laggy, let's talk about that digital cluster again. You do have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto though, which is very good. You do have a reverse camera, although it looks like it's taken from Need for Speed Most Wanted, but you don't have 360 cameras either. You do have upgraded speakers though. Originally you get an Alpine 9-speaker system, but you've got 19 Harman Kardons all over this thing. So you still get great stuff in here, you just get more of it in the Cadillac. And I know no one cares about this, but in the interest of being thorough, I have to mention fuel economy. And it's 13 mpg. That's what it's rated at anyway, which I think is a little bit generous. We've been doing like 11, but I mean, who cares? I couldn't tell you the last time that I met a Hellcat person that cared about fuel economy. If you were wondering though, I have to put it on the bad side because the Escalade V is also rated at 13 mpg. But I actually do feel like I remember the Escalade's fuel economy being worse last year. So I guess I will guilt-free enjoy this. So the Durango is a 3-row SUV, and it does have 3 rows, but it's not super efficient to get back here. There are 2 poles to remove that center seat, and the center console in the middle kind of does get in the way. But in terms of size, it's actually fairly decent. I'm 6'1" here. I have to sit a little upright, and my knees are high, but at least I have room for my legs. And I have air vents back here and cup holders, but I don't have any charging. It's relatively comfortable, but definitely not someplace I'd want to sit long term or in a long journey. And again, just in relation to the Cadillac, it's just not quite as big or spacious in the 3rd row here. And this is the part of the video where it kind of starts to feel like we're ganging up on the Durango here. We're not really, it's just the Escalade is a little bit bigger, and that happens with the trunk too. But I mean, look at this. This isn't exactly impractical by any means. I do, however, hate that the release for the tailgate is in the middle of the gate and not hidden under the license plate or something. It is actually pretty good for size, though, for a 3-row Sequoia. And you do have underfloor storage and a nice deep bin on your left-hand side. Your 3 rows do fold. They fold exactly like my parents' old 2011 Honda Odyssey, but they do fold and you have plenty of room. But with all that covered, let's talk about all the places that this thing shines. And then there's the absolute hysterics of this thing. I was struggling to try to find what I should name this category. Should I call it speed? Should I call it sound? Should I call it the motor? Like, how should I break it down? But I think it just is all encompassed by the fact that this thing just brings absolute hysterics to the driving experience. This is the Hellcat engine, so it's a 6.2 liter V8 with a 2.4 liter blower on top of that, and it sounds like this. Here it makes 710 horsepower, 645 pound-feet of torque, 8-speed gearbox just snaps and bangs off shifts. Really good gearbox here. All-wheel drive traction. You can set it 50-50 in snow mode, or you can go to track mode, and that'll send 70% of your power to the rear. With that traction and that power and this gearbox, you're gonna do 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. quarter miles done in 11 seconds from the factory. Top speed, 180 miles an hour. This is a family 3-row, I will remind you. Yes, it's really fast and it's crazy powerful, but to me, honestly, it's the sound for me. It's the sound. It's got a valved exhaust, so it doesn't really like drone when you go into auto or eco mode. Eco mode is hilarious in this thing, as if it's an eco mode. But you do also have a launch control, and you can set personalized RPM that you want to launch at, and you can also set where you want your shift lights to come in to remind you to shift. If you want to shift earlier in first and then get out of wheel spin, get into second earlier, or maybe later in third, whatever. But again, this is a 3-row family SUV, and it's doing this stuff. The question that I've been asking myself, though, and really the only question that I care about with this competition between the Durango and the Escalade is this more insane than the Escalade V? And I think what it really comes down to is, do you want more supercharger whine? Or do you want more cracks and burbles and backfires from the exhaust than your little Escalade? That's the question you gotta ask yourself. I will also say that this thing looks the business. I love the classic Dodge color names. This one is Destroyer Gray. It's classic FCA naming conventions. You've got the blackout package, which gets, interestingly, darker gray logos all over rather than black. But you do have totally satin black wheels, which look awesome. You've got a totally reworked front fascia that looks so much more aggressive. You've got a bulging hood for cooling, and you've got fierce LED running lights. Around the side, it does seem to be pretty Durango looking, although maybe a bit shorter, and those big red Brembos peeking out are a dead giveaway. Of course, the Hellcat badge on the front fender doesn't help either. And then around back, you have a big rear diffuser with massive blacked out dual exhaust, again, courtesy of the blackout package. And if you were wondering, the red interior, it's not just red, it's called demonic red. So the question then becomes, do you think this looks better than the Escalade V? In the comments. And another thing that goes with our hysterics category from this video are some of the menus and options that you get inside the cabin here. Of course, you have your performance pages with typical things like your tracking information, your telemetry, G-meter, engine status, temperatures, and you can select track mode, which is going to send 70% of your all-wheel drive power to just the rear wheels, and it's going to kill your traction control. Which on the face of it don't sound like strange things to have. They sound like normal sports car things, but this isn't a normal sports car. This is a huge 3-row family SUV. I mean, even the climate controls, the person on them, they have a racing helmet on, and I haven't seen that since the McLaren GT that we tested 2 years ago. This is hilarious. And I have to say, this thing is surprisingly buttoned up, and I have that feeling every time I get out of a Hellcat, especially when we put them around the track. So what did they do to this thing besides stuff a massive engine in it? Well, they put the Brembo brakes on. You can see that from the outside. They're huge, 15.5 inch up front and then 14.5 in the back. You've also got adaptive performance suspension, so it firms up a lot more, and then it does kind of, it relaxes a little bit in like auto mode or street mode, but it's still pretty stiff. And then there's Pirelli P0 tires. This is an upgraded $600 option, but this is a great tire. It's probably better when it's not like high 30s and had been snowing earlier this week, but it's pretty good. And then the wheels that you get are part of a blackout package. You do get the performance exhaust, and I mean, it's the best thing ever. You do have an electronic LSD in the back as well, managing your torque and limiting that slip. And again, like I mentioned, in track mode, you can send 70% of that power to the rear. That'll also turn traction off, and then you can really kind of slide this thing around. And then up front and everywhere, pretty much, lots of cooling, trans cooler, oil cooler, all that stuff. I mean, it's not a track car, but that didn't stop us from taking it around Road America's Motorplex to give it a proper shakedown. There we go. Oh, see now, it doesn't want to brake and turn. I could go deeper. Oh, it is big. It's got more front end. It's just cold. I think it's got more front end than I'm giving it credit for. I just can't feel anything, so I'm not trusting it.
Yeah, it's hard to feel it in the steering wheel. I feel like it has pretty good grip for.
Okay, we're wide.
Size.
Yeah, I would agree. This is a sloppy, sloppy lap. Okay.
102. So maybe by 3 seconds. That's pretty good.
Oh my god, that felt really gross.
You had a lot more to give for sure.
I think what I was struggling most with is like I'm not getting anything from the steering.
Yeah.
And in some corners I'm feeling like I have got more front end and I can lean on the tire more. And then in some corners it's just giving up. And just a quick note on towing because it's insane. Now, if you get the premium package, you get all the towing stuff. So you just need to slap in a little receiver here. But when you do that, you have 8,700 pounds of towing. That's more than the max that you can get from a Chevy Colorado or the max you can get from a GMC Canyon. I mean, this has got serious muscle, more than just for performance. This thing will move heavy stuff. And I'll admit, I was more than a little surprised to see just how many luxury features they packed into this old girl. I mean, you've got heated and cooled front seats, you've got a heated steering wheel, and you've got heated rear seats. The only thing keeping this from being like a German level of luxury is more robust ambient light and a bigger sunroof. That's really it. And the second row here, it's pretty good too. Here you get captain's chairs, and they are heated. And you can option a rear entertainment package, but it's gonna feel a lot like 2009. It is a good size though, and they kind of slide and recline. You don't have a pano roof stretching all the way back here, but it does feel nice and spacious. You are gonna get more space in the second row from the Escalade V, but those jump seats are really thin and hard and not comfortable. So for me, I like my SRT Lazy Boys, and I'll take it here in the Durango. And the last one is a big one, and it's price. Now, a Durango Hellcat starts at $91,000, and as tested, this has a couple options, including the premium package, which bumps the price up to $106,655. And that does sound like a lot, or at least it will until I tell you how much the Escalade V starts at. The Escalade V starts, remind you, starts at $150,000, and it goes up from there. And honestly, that's all I needed to hear, so let's grab the key and just listen to the supercharger whine. Durango Hellcat in track mode. Oh my god, is it fast. Brakes. Let's give this biker some room. Oh. I don't really need to do a lot of talking because I'm just gonna keep doing this. God, it's fast. Oh, I'm gonna turn it down a little bit just so you can hear me as I talk about a couple of things, because whew, I need a cigarette. I need a cigarette after that. Yee. Yeah, so Hellcat engine in a Durango now. I shouldn't say now, it's been like that for like 3 years, which is why some people are pissed. This thing came out originally like for the 2021 model year, and Dodger's like, we're only gonna make it for 1 year. Make sure you get it, collectors get it, spend all this money. I'm sure dealers upcharged and gouged and all that sort of stuff. And then they brought it back for 2022, and then people are like, well, now it's less collectible. I spent a bunch of money at the dealer thinking that it would be collectible, and then they brought it back again for 2023. So if you were a collector, sorry, but if you're a normal everyday person that wanted to get one of these, it's a huge win. You'd love to see it. Oh, God, it's fast. Okay, all right, let's just... Heavy brakes, heavy brakes. Pitch it in on power. Oh, come on. It's my biggest gripe. Okay, and you can kind of see and you can kind of gather from the track footage that it doesn't like two things. It doesn't like to brake. I mean, it will brake, but you're not feeling anything through the brake, and you don't feel a lot through the steering. And it also doesn't really love to be in manual mode. Like, I just shifted with the paddle up toward redline, and in every other car, that's fine, because then it'll go into manual mode and then it'll shift. This is like, okay, you're in manual mode, now what? It's like, no, I want you to shift. And if you even touch the rev limiter, it's gonna just kill power. And that's just kind of annoying because you're on such a high and it's so fast and it's so loud, and then it's just like limp. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's a bummer. But anyway, so what was I saying? Hellcat engine, 6.2 V8, 2.4 liter blower on top of that, 710 horsepower here, 645 pound-feet of torque. That's fine, I get it. They have made genuine efforts to like performanceify this thing. It is still not a track car. It is at least not a track car on a small, tight autocross course at like 30 degrees, which why would it be? It's a huge family 3-row SUV, but what it is a complete riot on the road. It is so much fun on the road. I mean, just insane power, insane speeds, and more than that, insane sounds. And that I don't want to drone on too much because this thing does its own talking, but the question that I have for myself that I've been asking Paulo this week and that I will pose to all of you on the YouTubes is this more insane than an Escalade V? And I've really struggled with that because it really does come down, and I think I mentioned it earlier, it comes down to what you like more. There's so much more supercharger whine that you just don't get from the Escalade, but you get all of those cracks and pops and pops, like the machine gun backfires from the Escalade when you lift off throttle, which your neighbors probably don't like, but I do. And then here, you don't get really any of those backfires, but you get so much supercharger whine, and it sounds so good. And of course this thing is a bit older, but really what it comes down to me is like, they're similar enough that even if I liked the Escalade just a hair more, the Escalade is $60,000 more to start. $60,000 more to start. And then option up from there. That's insane. And for that reason, I'm going with this. And that's all I have to say. So that is the best and the rest of the Dodge Durango Hellcat. And I have to say, I test about 100 cars a year, and like 60 to 70% of them don't really leave a lasting impression. And that is absolutely not the case with this Dodge Durango Hellcat. The Durango may be from 2011, and the Hellcat powertrain has been largely the same since its debut in 2015, but there are very few cars that have the same personality and charm of this thing. It is so loud, it is so fast, and it is so silly. It doesn't take itself so seriously, and I absolutely love that about this thing. So thank you again to Kelly and the Stellantis and Dodge team for letting us have a go in your Durango Hellcat. We'll see you in the next one.